Well, Natasha, up until about 48 hours ago, I would have said that American help is central to this, and I still believe it's important. But what we saw at the Oval Office really now has distanced the United States from our closest allies in Europe, in NATO, those with whom we've walked for decades in peace and security. And so I'm concerned that we're having a separation of perspectives now on what needs to be done. So what really needs to take place next is for the United States, Britain, France, and others to get together and get a common plan. But we're seeing the opposite happen. Quite frankly, I was very disturbed to see President Trump yelling at President Zelenskyy while at the same time taking off leverage from Vladimir Putin. Any pressure on Putin, President Trump seems to want to move to the side. And that's not really playing a neutral arbiter, and it's not clear what his end goal is. And that's why diplomacy right now is in a very difficult moment.
Yeah, a difficult moment. You know, Kurt, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard said the gulf between the world leaders may be too much to overcome at this point. Let's listen to that together.
President Trump recognizes the urgent need to end this war after 3 long, bloody years and has proven that he is the only person that can do this. President Zelenskyy has different aims in mind. He has said that he wants to end this war, but he will only accept an end, apparently, that leads to what he views as Ukraine's victory, even if it comes at an incredibly high cost.
Help us break through the noise here. What needs to be done to find common ground for what she is describing as different aims at this point?
Yeah, well, I don't agree with her that there are different aims. I think that Ukraine wants peace more than anybody else. So I think the United States and Ukraine want that. President Trump and President Zelenskyy have both talked about a just peace. They probably don't agree on what that means, but that's now something to talk about. What is just, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. And also, I have to say that I thought what Keir Starmer did this weekend, meeting with President Zelenskyy, and then calling European allies together to meet with Zelenskyy and come up with a way forward. And then for Starmer and Macron to talk with Trump first, and then say, okay, we're going to put together a ceasefire plan. We're going to put together a deterrence capability for Ukraine going forward. We're going to present that to President Trump. We're going to figure this out. I think that's exactly the kind of diplomacy that's needed. I think it was very well done by Keir Starmer. And I think President Trump, while he was in the moment in the Oval Office as this argument was taking place, I think he knows that ending the war in Ukraine is something he wants to do and wants to get credit for. He knows that he needs to get Zelenskyy on board for that. He wants to set up an arrangement where the United States gets paid back for military aid that we've provided. That's only going to happen if we actually get this mineral deals done. So I think it's not hopeless right now, and Ukraine is not out of the game. And I think Starmer and Macron seem to be playing a mediating role now to bring everybody back together.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch. You know, Joel, I know you wrote on your Substack, the briefing book, that the only winner is Vladimir Putin. Tell me more about this. What do you believe Russia is making of all of these events Friday and over the weekend?
Well, thank you for highlighting that. Look, the Russians, Vladimir Putin, he just has to sit back now and watch. It's his goal to create a wedge between the United States and Ukraine because without American military support of the past several years, there really would not have been a chance for the Ukrainians to fight effectively. But Putin has bigger designs, and that's where I get very concerned about this separation between Europe and the United States. And while I appreciate the idea that Keir Starmer and Macron are salvaging diplomacy, if we're separated, that only gives Vladimir Putin a stronger incentive to continue to push into Europe. And so right now, it's crucial that these moves by the European leaders, that they are synchronized with the White House, and that the White House steps back and recognizes that they are creating a strategic nightmare for Europe if Europe has to salvage this on its own. And so I think for Putin, he really comes out ahead. The White House is conceding NATO membership of Ukraine, saying that's off the table, taking off counter-cyber activities, as was just reported over the weekend, and not getting Vladimir Putin really to agree to anything, nor even a tongue lashing from President Trump.
All right, Joel Rubin, Kurt Volker, appreciate both of you making the time tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.